Good morning and welcome to lesson 13 of COM 231. This week we will focus largely on the persuasive speech. So far you've completed the Who Am I Really presentation, where the research was basically internal reflection, a deep, long look inside, coming to terms with your identity and speaking about who you are and telling stories largely. So the main points were driven by stories. And if you told stories, they worked well. If you didn't, then it was rather vague in general and you didn't disclose as you should have. The second presentation was the informative speech, and you did rather well. I grade harder on the second presentation than I do the first, because now you know some of the criteria of good and effective speech making. And it was all driven by research. So you needed oral citations, and quite a few of you messed up on this. That is, you just didn't have any oral citations. Or if you did, they were rather vague. You said something to the effect of research shows, and that really doesn't help. You need to tell us who it is, maybe the author's name, maybe the article's title. That helps sufficiently. Your credibility in the informative speech depends on your oral citations. So also with the third presentation, the persuasive speech. So let me remind you, oral citations are a big thing. And it's a minimal citation, meaning either the author, tell us who the author is, and if you're citing it verbatim, that's fine. If you're giving a paraphrase, that's fine, but tell us where the information came from. So for each main point, you probably need at least 1 to 2, I would say 2 oral citations for each main point. Let us know that this is legitimate research and that your credibility is good because you haven't just sucked it out of your thumb. The information came from somewhere credible. So keep that in mind. The other thing about the persuasive speech is that it must be persuasive in nature. Take a stand, take a point, take a position is what I mean. So don't phrase your thesis statement in terms of a question. That's not taking a point or a position. You must take a position. So let's think of the introduction. A big thing in the introduction is relevance. Relevance. Why should I listen to this persuasive presentation? Why is it a need for me? Okay, so you need to extend that and develop that, the reason to listen. And then, of course, don't forget your credibility statement where you highlight your research. Having a PowerPoint slide is great, but highlight the research for us. Talk about 1 or 2 of your research sources. What would be good to look at if I wanted to pursue this topic even further? Of course, preview the main points as you normally would. That's fine. Be specific as you preview the main points. And then for each main point, you need those oral citations. Again, reminder, for each main point, you need the oral citations. Between the main points, be sure to let us know that you are completing one main point and moving on to the next. The purpose of a transition, the function of a transition, is to review the previous main point and to preview the next main point. It's to alert the audience that you're moving this progression, logical progression. It's also, here it is, to logically connect the 2 main points. How are the 2 main points logically connected? And really, that is one of the major functions of a transitional statement. So be sure to use the various types of supporting material. Do not forget pathos. Do not forget the power of the story. So the first presentation, the Who Am I Really presentation, was all about stories and was powerful if you told extended stories. Now with this one, you might not have the time for a long extended story, but be sure to at least include one. If you want to convince the audience to take action, very often that comes from the motivation of a powerful, emotionally driven story. So be sure to include pathos in this presentation. And then one more thing to remember as you look at concluding. Use a break-like function, of course, fine, in conclusion to sum it all up. Review the thesis statement and the main points, and then now your action, what you want the audience to do. This is a little bit more extended. Just like the reason to listen is extended, so also is the audience response section. You want to motivate us at this point to respond in some way. And then conclude with a vivid ending. Find something that will help you tie up the presentation well. A quotation, maybe another little short story or saying or something to that effect. Okay, So I'm looking forward to a wonderful rehearsal. And the other thing too is that most of you have been sitting down when rehearsing this presentation, and that really doesn't help you in terms of the rehearsal. The rehearsal needs to be a dress rehearsal. What that means is that you need to deliver it as if this is the real thing. So stand when you deliver, and stand when you record your rehearsal for this presentation. Thank you again for your hard work. You are improving significantly. Call me if you have any questions.